Hi guys, welcome back to the Ready to Rise podcast. I have Miss Demiree here, and she is the leader, the founder of the EmpowHer Movement, and I'm so excited to have you. We were just talking off air, I need to be at these events that you're hosting. I can just feel the energy literally from the internet. Like you can just feel how amazing they are. So I'm so happy to have you here on the
Thanks for
podcast.
having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. I would love to, the cliche traditional question, but I really want to hear how you got started, how you created this movement, like how this whole thing started for you.
Yeah, so the Spark Notes version, because like I always like
Yeah.
to say, this scroll, if we could just open it up and just start talking for hours. But the quickest version that I can give you is that originally I had dropped out of med school. I wanted to go to school to be a plastic surgeon. And when I
Oh,
realized that was way too much schooling and I wanted to start my life before the age of 40, I was like, okay, what else can I do? So I eventually opened up my first business, which was called Ruby Boutique, and it was a women's clothing store in Port Huron, Michigan. And that was so much fun. I had such a great experience with that. I had that for about 6.5 years. And then towards the end of that, I just felt like I love being on camera. I love meeting people. I love wearing, even though I'm like dressed in a black shirt right
right.
now, like I love fun clothing that you might not see in normal places that you have to like go order and things like that. But I
Mm.
found that after a while, what I really liked was the feeling that when the women left my store, some people would just come to my store just to like have a therapy session,
Oh,
which
I
I
love
loved. I was like, I don't even care if you buy anything. I'm just excited to hear what the ex-boyfriend thought about what your outfit looked like at the
this.
wedding. Like that's what I want to know. So eventually, as time went on, I was like, how can I maximize this feeling that I have and make it into a business?
Wow.
So I'm sorry if you hear there's like chainsaws outside. I think
Oh,
someone's
yeah,
cutting a
yeah,
tree down.
yeah.
Okay, so it's very loud. So if you hear that noise,
Like I cannot hear.
yeah, I was like, how can I take this feeling that, women have and that I feel when they buy an outfit and you can just see them light up? How do I take that like aura and have a business about that? Because as much as I would love to have something that's like, I don't have to have a business out of it. It
Yeah.
doesn't pay your bills. So unfortunately,
Yes.
how can I profit off of this? But it also like feels good. So I was just kind of like trying to niche down that business. So I eventually closed that store and did online boutique. And I was like, oh my God, well, where am I going to have my events now?
Yeah.
Now my storefront is gone and I don't want to ask people for favors. I don't want to like impose on anything. I want my own space. So I'm like, I'll rent out this local venue. I'll charge like $10 for tickets and maybe the vendor's like $20 just to get in there. And I'll have all my favorite businesses that are my girlfriends pop up and it'll just be like a kind of a big girls' day out,
Yeah.
right? Just to cover the cost of the venue. This wasn't anything to like profit off of it.
Yeah.
And it sold out within 2 hours. So
Oh
we
my gosh.
yeah, it was really cool. So I was like, oh wow, okay, like so all the vendors and their families and friends are coming. Well, then I started getting messages from people that were like, so are there speakers coming? And I'm like, uh-huh. Like immediately like trying to like pull something out of
Yeah.
nowhere of like, okay, I gotta make this happen. And it was just so much fun. Like I authentically went into this doing it the way that I would want a conference to go, even though I look back on my first year and I'm like, yikes. But at the time, I was just doing what felt good and having people that really represented like women empowerment in like a non competing zone, which I feel like as women in business, it's very hard to find that. And
Yeah.
so I wanted just to have the space to do that. So then year two and year three, and now we're on year four, it's just completely skyrocketed. We had the city of Detroit reach out to us to come down this year. So we're at like one of the biggest venues in
That is
Michigan.
so
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
transformed into this thing that's like, how can I like, make something out of this to now we're Michigan's largest women empowerment conference and community online that we have women not only in Michigan, but all over
Yeah.
the country a part of. So it's just this really cool experience of wow factor of like, wow, I've built a business
Yeah.
doing exactly what I want to do. And I think a lot of women feel like that's not like possible. So I make it my mission to number one, just show up authentically as you and things will line up perfectly. And two, like literally what you want to do, you can make a career in a business out of it and literally be that annoying person that's like, I love Mondays. It's not work if you love what you
Yes.
do. Like, I live and breathe that because I genuinely love what I do. So it's just been a really cool experience starting from med school dropout to
Yeah.
now one of the biggest conferences in the state of Michigan.
And,
So
like, living a life that truly like, again, like, it sounds really cliche, but yeah, like, living a life that feels aligned, you know? Like, seriously, like, med school and all the things and, like, who knows, and it would have taken so much time, but it's like now you're doing something that, like, impacts so many lives
yeah,
and feels really good for you.
yeah. And it's funny because I think like I'm the weirdo like on TikTok that loves watching like the earwax removal or like the zit popping. Like that's me. My husband thinks I'm disgusting. He's like, "Why are you watching that for the sixth time?" I'm like,
Yes.
"Look at what they pulled out of his ear." Like
Oh
I
my
love stuff
god.
like that. But then I think the reason why going into plastic surgery was having
Mhm.
women who don't feel as beautiful and being able to help them in any
Yes.
capacity. So it's funny that every single thing that I've wanted to do is in like helping women become like a better version of themselves and just
Yes.
helping them believe in themselves, even if that means altering something about them to
Yeah.
make them feel who they want to be. But
Yeah.
it's just like I was like, that's it, but not quite there. And then it's kind of like the what's it called? The bears with the porridge. It's like a little too
Yeah,
cold, a little too
totally.
hot, just right. Like that's where we're
Yeah.
at now. So
I love it too, like, your online community, like, I'm part of it, and I love it, like, it's literally just such an encouraging space of, like, where so many women are able to connect, and that also, like, popped off, and I think it's because of that feeling of, like, I can tell from the outside looking in that it's an authentic place, that you're running it from an authentic place as well, so you can just feel
yeah.
that, so I think that that's, like, it just you can feel how safe it is, and the connections are true connections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I've been in so many rooms where I'm a lot. Like I'm very a lot. I swear a lot. I say it how it is. I wear whatever the hell I want to. And I've unfortunately felt like I was in rooms where like I like started off and I was like, "Ooh, this is not the energy." And like I felt unfortunately at those times like, "Okay, I'm just going to be quiet. Like this isn't my group." And instead of like leaving and not coming back, I just consistently kept coming back. And I'm like, I want to create a space if you're a lot, or maybe you're a super introvert that's trying to figure it out. Like, it's so you don't need to be on my level of extrovert to be a part of my community, right? You don't need to be this obnoxious disco ball cowgirl rhinestone person. You can be like, I literally get anxiety leaving my house going to my mailbox, like being a part of it, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
so I wanted a space that wasn't like putting labels on you have to be a mom, you have to be in a relationship, you have to be straight, you have to be a business owner, you have to be this person. It's just like you just got to be. And whatever
Yes.
it is that you want more out of your life, like you can do that here without feeling like, oh, I don't fit in. And
Yes.
so having like this well-rounded community, not only in one once a year in-person event, but this online community that you're a part of is just making women feel like they belong. So
Yes.
yeah, I think it's
I
really
feel like
important.
we really need that in our lives, and I know, like, I wanted to kind of specifically talk about just the whole, like, Valentine's Day thing, and, like, it's such a cliche, right? And I know, like, both of us are married, but still, I still personally am like, "Oh, Valentine's Day is for the girls." Like, it's just
Yes.
always been my thing, and,
Valentine's? Did you mean Galentines? Like,
exactly.
no.
And, like, I just feel like this time of year, like, it's just whether you're single, married, whatever, I feel like it's just the perfect time to, like, romanticize your life, like, feel good about yourself again, and, like, just speaking of, like, community in the events and all of that, like, that is my feeling right now. So, like, I obsessed with that kind of, like, conversation and that kind of vibe of, like, just wearing what you wanna wear, be around who you wanna be around, do the things that make you feel really, really good.
Yeah, just tapping into who you are and owning that and feeling good about it. And I talk about this a lot to a lot of the girls on our one-on-ones, and I just say like it's okay to say like you're a big deal. It's okay to
Mm,
like yourself. It's
yeah.
okay to talk about your wins. I'm so sorry that you unfortunately had family members or friends or sister wounds or like society that made you feel like you couldn't celebrate or love your life or talk about how much you love yourself because they had their own insecurities. phase, and it has taken me years, not only of like actually working, but like
Yeah.
therapy and such, of figuring that out. And now I just see people who are like hating on people for no reason, or maybe they have a reason. There really doesn't ever need to be a reason for someone to hate on it, because I will catch myself. I'll be like, oh God, and then I'm like, why do I think that way? I'm jealous because she looked fucking amazing. Or
Yes.
doing the conference with 1,000 people, and I'm like, I have to check myself that it's like, it's okay to like who you are, love your life, love the things that you do, and talk about it. And just like you said, romanticizing literally the big and the little things of your life,
Yeah.
because you're going to be miserable if you don't. And guess what? The
Yes.
people that are miserable are the ones that aren't romanticizing it, and also are like negative about everything. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
like
like,
finding
I
that
kind of feel
balance.
sorry for them.
Yeah, and it takes time. I wanna ask you, like, like, right now, like, you're so vibrant, and, like, how you were saying, like, you wear what you want, you say what you want, and you do all the things, but was it always that way, or was it that therapy and that whole journey that you were just talking about?
So like in high school and such like that, I always did wear like what I wanted, and I think that's kind of what rose to the boutique industry portion of it.
Mhm.
But I think a big part that I don't really touch on too much anymore, which was a huge part of my career, was I pivoted through a divorce at a young age with my son, and his dad. And I went through like this phase in high school where I was like, I got along with everybody. I hated the popular people who were always mean to like the less for, but I was friends with all of the groups, right?
Yeah.
And like I had the amazing life, and I had all this fun stuff, and I was making the connections, and then I got married and I moved away from home, and I had this partner who like kind of suppressed me and
Okay.
made me feel like I couldn't be who I wanted to be, or like I'd never be successful without them. So ultimately I won't bore like a narcissist, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm like, Kanye vibes?
Yeah, yeah, very Kanye vibes. And I just like had to unfortunately get into this really dark place where it's like, I don't like who I am.
Mhm.
Like, I don't like who I am. I don't feel like I'm showing up on social media like the dollhouse, like, oh, look at this picture perfect family, but it doesn't
Yeah,
feel great because number one, it's not true. And I don't feel that way. So
yeah.
then I was also like attracting clients and people and like that. It just wasn't authentic. And that's why it didn't really feel great. So no, I wasn't always like this, like, fuck yeah, be the baddest
Yeah,
person, like the biggest, like I wasn't that person. I
okay.
was in high school, lost myself, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I know my potential. I know that girl is in there, and unfortunately, I'm allowing somebody else to do that for me. So whether that's your partner, again, a family member, a friend, your boss, it could be anybody. And so when you start to fall in love with yourself, I hated myself. I was like, I thought I was never gonna date anybody ever again.
Right.
All these things, right? You start to like really, you start to be like, oh, no one's gonna date me. I have a child. I don't really have anything going for me. Meanwhile, I'm 22, opening two businesses and just killing life, right? So it's like I fell back in love with myself, and I was like, you can ask my husband. Our internet for our house is called Casual Friends, because I literally told him I would never like ever be in a committed relationship because
Oh my god, I love that. I did the
I
same
was
thing.
yeah, I was too busy like loving my life and traveling and not
Yes.
having any commitment, and just like I don't ever want anyone else to make me feel that way again.
Yeah.
Now we are happily married, living in like with two dogs and you know what I mean, like all the things. But it's I had to fall in love with myself, my life, my
Yeah.
job. Then came Empower, then came my podcast, then came
Yeah.
everything that I had, and it's just like I fully am so passionate about what I do, because now I'm doing the things that I used to preach about that I was like
Mhm.
wishing I had, and now I have it. And I want to show women that like I'm authentically doing it, and you can too, when you love your life and everything that you put your mind to, and you could do it whatever it is that you put your mind to. So
Tell me a little bit about, like, that part, like, coming out, like, of the divorce and, like, finding yourself again, like, really, like, getting back to this
yeah,
place. Like, what did
yeah.
you do?
I had a partner that cheated on me all of the time, was gone out to the bars till 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, like never wanted to be home. And again, this was my high school sweetheart. So I'm like, this is really all I know.
Yeah.
And this is all I deserve. And this is normal. Like my
Yes,
husband now
I
hears
agree.
stories of things that I went through. He's like, your life is in fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like it should be a movie. And so I was going through this and I was really just trying to keep it together for my son. And I think around like, yeah, like 2 years old. I mean, obviously, leading up to that, I knew that like I should have left, but like I think at 2 years old was when I just hit this rock bottom, and I was like, nothing is changing.
Yeah.
Like nothing changes if nothing changes, and
Yeah.
I hate everything about like I'm showing up to make women feel empowered and meanwhile I'm like dying inside. I hate this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what can I do to change this? And I was like, it's the root of all evil. It's my marriage. Like this needs to end, unfortunately. So I literally just packed my stuff. I moved out. I went to my mom's house and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh
Like
my
this is
God. Yeah.
exhausting. And it was the manipulation of a change, every like your
Yeah.
boss is going to change, your friends are going to whatever.
Yeah.
And I just realized like it's not, like it's been years. So unfortunately, like went through really dark, but like it started to get a lot lighter and it felt like this weight lifted off my chest of like this expectation of this relationship that I was expecting. Again, this can relate to maybe somebody listening to this as like a beautiful marriage and they're like, this doesn't relate to me at all. But like this weight off your chest when you quit your job or you cut that tie with that toxic friend or the family member that you were just like, you
Mm,
feel like you can't get rid of, but
yes.
like you literally anyone is not, that sounds bad, but like disposable. Like you don't have to keep people around that make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
So I just felt like this weight lifted of like this expectation of this relationship that never was going to be. And once I started getting rid of that, my mind was more focused on, okay, well, now that I'm not worried about if my husband's cheating on me or if, X, Y, and Z, I have time to focus on my business and I have time to meet girlfriends and I have time to meet people whose energy is reciprocated and like me for who I am and are like, thank God you left them. You know what I mean? But it's just, my mind was like clear and it was like living in this of like, I'm actually like really fucking cool. Like I'm actually a really cool person. And I felt for the longest time like I wasn't allowed to admit because I had somebody who was like, you're so vain if you think that highly of yourself. And
Yeah.
when you think you are a celebrity. And I'm like,
Oh, it's like the
I'm
best
just
feeling.
yeah, I just want to like myself
Yeah.
and I don't. So I started telling myself like I love myself and I started being around girls who also were chanting that. And I'm like, look at them. Look at their relationships. They're so healthy. Their husband doesn't think that they're vain for saying like, "Oh my god, look how good I look." I'm like, "Don't you think that that's vain?" And they're like, "No, you think it's vain because your husband told you it was." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so right." So being open to this whole new world of like it's okay to like yourself
Yeah.
and love your life. And again, if somebody else isn't, it's a them problem, not you.
My story is so similar, and like I'm not going to obviously get into it because I've shared it here so many times on my podcast, but like oh, leaving a relationship, we were not married, but he was just nuts. And it was just it got to this point where I just kept thinking like is this all? Is this all? And everybody kept telling me, "Oh, it's normal." And I kept thinking, "Oh, this is normal. It's normal to feel this way. It's normal to feel like kind of suppressed and all of that." And oh my God, my dog is going crazy over here. Um
Dog moment.
like okay but it just was insane. It just got to this really bad point where I completely started to hate myself because I was just so stuck in this relationship. And we weren't married, but I found the engagement ring that he was going to like propose to me with, and I packed my bags, left. I was like, I can't do this. Like that was like my big moment of like, oh my God, like I'm not living like the life that I want to live. I didn't feel like myself, and I had completely lost and hated myself. So I totally get it. And coming out of that is no small feat. Like how like we can wrap it up into like a story that takes like 5 minutes of this episode, but it's like it's so much bigger than that. Like it's so much to find yourself again and get vibrant again and like love yourself again. I want to hear, this might be kind of a loaded question, but I would love to hear if there's like daily activities or like weekly things, or like are there like practices that you're doing for yourself right now to like continue being her and showing up as her so that like you said, not going to lose her again.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually had this conversation. I have lots of conversations with myself. I'm crazy.
Love
Um,
it. That's so
but
good.
I noticed that when I was going through this like envisioned Demiree of like who I want to
Mhm.
be, I was like, she's waking up early, she's working out, she's drinking water, right? And we all want to be that girl. And I'm going to be honest, I'm
Yes.
not doing those things right now.
Yeah.
But I know that when I was doing those, that's when I felt the best. So right now I'm like, and it's never going to be linear. It's
Yeah.
going to be like this, right?
Yeah.
It's like I can't expect to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning and work out. And I mean, I wish I was. I'm just being honest. Like that's not who
Yeah.
I am. So right now I'm in like this, not down here, but I'm like on the come up because I know what it feels like when I was doing those things. So when I was like really doing it all, because right now I'm just like I'm planning the events, I'm doing it all. I'm like my son's in school, we're doing like
Yeah.
it's mayhem around here, and that's just life.
Yeah.
Um, I was really just taking the time of being okay being alone. Like, not necessarily like, I'm going to go to the restaurant, eat by myself, but I was journaling. And that sounds so fluffy, but it was just like, it's so fun to look back at my journals when I was like single before my husband. And like, I was just like, you got this today. Like, we're going to show up on this pot. Like, you just talk so nicely to yourself. So, like, being alone, and even if you don't believe it, just talking nicely to yourself, because then one day you're going to actually just, that's just normal. And then when you are talking nicely to yourself, it just becomes like a standard that you have not only for yourself but for other people. Like, I had somebody the other day write me the nastiest message, and I sent it to my
Oh
husband, and
my
he, like,
God.
normal me would have snapped, like.
Yeah.
And I just wrote back, you unfortunately don't get to talk to me like that. And
Yes.
then I
So
blocked him. It
good.
was beautiful. But it's just like when you talk nicely about yourself and you're waking up and you're just honoring what feels good for you versus like, I got to wake up, I got to do this. This is instead of treating things like a to do list, treating things like I get to do it. It just seems, it feels so much better versus like, I got to go to work. I got to go work out. I got to drink water because it says it on my list. It's like, no, I want to drink water so that I don't eat a bag of chips. I want to go work out because anybody you ask feels 100 times better. No one has ever worked out and been like, I wish I didn't do that.
Yes. So
You know what I
true.
mean? So it's just like when you flip your mindset of talking nicely to
Mhm.
yourself and treating the things as like opportunities versus tasks,
Yeah.
it's a whole different mindset shift for anybody, regardless if they're a business owner, whatever the case may be. So that was a huge thing that I
Yeah.
did do sometimes, but like not as much as I'd like to, of waking up and like doing the things that I said, tell myself that I'm going to do because they're opportunities. And then when they are getting done, I feel so much better about myself, my life. I feel organized. Everything around me just feels in harmony. It's a beautiful thing.
And it just like feels so good, right? Like that's back to like that romanticizing your life. Like it's like literally, I get to do this. I don't have to do this, but I get to do this. And I get to like drink the water and do the things. And like I love it. Like every night when I'm doing my skincare, that's my thing where I'm just like, oh, this feels so luxurious. Like this feels so good. Like just bringing that like romance back or like
Yeah.
that just like that girly feeling of just like I just get to feel so good in my own skin right now.
Yeah, I like doing these tasks with my girls.
Yeah.
I ask them to write down their perfect day.
Mm,
Okay. And anyone listening to this, if you're listening to this on the replay, whatever, listen and pause this. Think about your perfect day. And by perfect day, I mean a realistic perfect day. Like, I don't mean
mm,
like I'm in
yes.
Cabo on the beach with 100 beautiful men. You know what I mean? Like if you're a single girl, you know what I mean? Like not that. I'm talking about like if you woke up tomorrow and your day could go exactly how you wanted it to go, how would it go? Like with in recognition of like if you have a job, like going to your job, like and
Sure.
like things working out for you, like how would
Yeah.
that look? And so I have them write that down. Like one day we did it, and I was like, write it down, and they're like, I was like, I'm not going to talk until it's done, so go. And so they write it down, and then I have them read it back to me, and most of them are the most realistic things. And I'm like that's why I ask you to make it realistic. So then I go, so why doesn't that happen?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't have the time. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do in your other time? She's like, well, I'm like, all the things that you wrote down are things that you're already doing. They're just your mindset about that thing. Like, oh, well, I want to go to work, but no one's going to bother me or get to me. I'm like, no one can get to you if you don't let them. So like if you go to work and you immediately go with a negative attitude, that's on you,
Yeah.
not on anyone else. So it's like think about the perfect day that you would have with reason again, right? Like you're not getting a $40,000 raise and you're not going to Cabo and you're not doing like
So
a realistic perfect day. And then realizing that that day can't exist. It
yeah.
can literally happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the only person that's stopping that from happening is you. And so they were like, what? They're like, well, in a perfect day, I would, go to work and I'd have like a great attitude with all my patients, and I'd come home and I'd order takeout, and then my girlfriends would want to go get martinis or this and that, like the most typical, like best girls day. And then I'd come home at 8 p.m. because I don't want to be out late, and I'd like
So
wash my
good.
face and I'd have an ugly skin mask on and I'd be watching my show and I'd be asleep by like no later than 9:30. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Let's
So
do
let's
it.
make it happen. So the next day I
Mhm.
texted her. I was like, find 5 friends to go get drinks with tonight.
Oh, yes.
No, and I was like, okay, then I'll just start reaching out to people I see that you follow on Instagram. It's gonna be really weird if you don't know them. She's like, fine. So she went and got drinks, and she went home
Oh my
and
gosh.
was like, I was home by like 8:15, but I did my skin mask. I go, how did you feel? She goes, it was great. I go, it can happen.
Yeah.
To romanticize your life. She was like, I woke up the next day in such a better mood. Like
Yeah,
every day can be like that.
exactly.
Not every day is going to be a Hallmark movie. Like
Yeah.
not every day is going to be like, oh, I woke up, my hair is perfect, my skin
Mhm.
has no blemishes, my job's going to go great, my car's not going to break down. Like there's going to be shit that happens that's going to
Yeah.
go bad, but it's up to you with how you react to it. And in addition to romanticizing, like you can romanticize a life, but then it's like these opportunities are coming to you, and it's up to you to how are you going to handle it.
I
So
love that, like that mindset flip of seriously just the way that we're thinking about things, the way that we're going after things and flowing our, I guess creating flow in our day, really just enjoying it more because of the mindset flip and because of how we're going about it.
yeah,
Seriously,
it,
that whole thing. Like,
it's super important. I
mm,
think it goes in hand with like if you go to a conference, you
mhm.
can learn amazing things from people speaking on
Yeah,
these stages
yeah.
that are doing all the amazing things. But then
Growing
if you go
a little
home
bit.
and you don't apply anything to your life,
Yeah.
it was a waste. You're like, oh my God, I'm so amped up. Now what? No one's spoon feeding it to you. It's you taking the knowledge you just took or learned
Yeah.
and applying it to your life. So it's the same thing of like, you can romanticize this life and making it, but then actually doing the things that make you happy. So it's like I could sit here and be like, I don't know, romanticize, manifested. I don't know. I'm not a big spiritual person, so I'm like, I don't know what happened, but like I literally spoke out to the universe the exact life that I have right now, and I
So
romanticized the fuck out of my life. I was like, I'm gonna find somebody which I wasn't like searching for. I wasn't like
yeah.
out like who wants to date me
Yeah.
next bachelorette. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, I really don't want to date anybody, but I knew that when I did have that moment in my life, like I was gonna find somebody that put me first selfishly, like put my child first, put our life first, never want to be out to the bar till 4 o'clock. Like everything I used to have, I don't want any of that anymore.
Mhm.
And I could not speak more highly about my husband. He is like my biggest supporter. He is my biggest cheerleader ever. And I feel so happy saying that now because like I used to say that miserably and it felt so bad
Mhm.
saying it. Like, oh my God, my husband's so supportive. Meanwhile, we hate each other.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
you
now it's
romanticize it, but like when it
like,
comes, the opportunity comes to you, do you look at your partner? Like I didn't look at my then husband or my boyfriend and be like, "You're gonna cheat on me." I didn't take all the things that I could have done,
yeah.
from my previous relationship and put it in
Yes.
this. So it's the action and the mindset that you have going into it that
Love
really
that.
shapes everything.
I love that. I honestly, I'm like feeling a little mind blown. I actually didn't think about it like that because I did a very similar thing like with my husband and like I didn't think about that like that reflection of like I could have thought all the negative things and then brought that into my life. But
Yeah,
instead you're focusing on those positives and you're bringing in all those positives or those just different things that you want.
yeah,
And going about our day like that, I mean, truly going about our day like that, you're bringing it in. And then
yeah,
that's what it's going to look like is just what you're focusing on.
yeah.
I'm just, I love that so
There's
much.
a fine line though of like that trauma where I understand everybody
Mhm.
here who's like listening to this in the relationship aspect of people who have hurt them really badly. I'm not expecting you to act like 50 first dates of any and be
Yeah,
like, I don't remember anything. This is gonna go great. Like have your
yeah,
cautions,
yeah,
but
totally.
don't relate it to the worst that you're expecting. Even in like everyday, like if you had a bad experience at a restaurant and you try it again, like don't go in with it like thinking it's gonna be bad again. Then don't go there. Try something
Yes,
new. Or
yes,
like the
exactly.
same thing with your job. Like, oh, it's gonna be a shitty day. Well, no shit. You're walking in here like a
Yeah,
miserable person. Of course it's gonna go
just
bad.
change it out. I did
Yeah.
that. I recently recorded an episode. I need to release it about like how I manifested my husband, I swear. And it's like so like woo woo or whatever, but I literally wrote everything down on this big like poster board thing. I wrote all the qualities I wanted. And what I did is I would come back, like after going on a date with somebody, maybe they didn't like match those qualities, but I would come back and look at the qualities I wanted. And if
Yeah.
they didn't match it, it was a no.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get caught up into other things and whatever, there's so much I could say about how we can get caught up into that. But I would come back, look at my list, and if it didn't match up, it was like, okay, let me change. Because like we don't have to continue doing the things that don't feel good just because we think we have to do them or whatever.
Yeah.
But it can be like that with our life too, right? Where it's like, if our job is starting to feel like this huge time suck or whatever, maybe we can't leave today, but it's like we can start to make those moves to eventually leave, or just changing with those small changes over time.
Yeah.
Only to get back to that life that feels good, because it's my big thing is like life is just so short. We're not here forever, and like we're not wasting it.
No, I love the list though. That is perfect. And I understand that like anyone listening to this with it, whether you're putting on there like your ideal qualities of a relationship or a job or a friendship or, whatever it is, understand that not every quality is going to be hit, right? Like
Yeah,
we understand that. But when they're missing more than half of
yeah,
those qualities,
yeah,
don't mistaken that for a red flag of not only just really like anything,
yeah,
friends, family,
totally.
job, whatever the case may be. Because I think it's like I'm the same way. Like I would have a list of qualities, and then I have a girlfriend who was like, "Okay, I made the list of qualities," and he checked off every single one but one, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Come on, okay, they're not gonna all be a
Mhm.
hundred
Yeah,
percent,
like
right?"
that's pretty
But
darn good.
yeah, but it's understanding what you're willing to compromise of like what's not like mine was like I don't want someone with a history of cheating
Yeah,
or narcissistic
yeah,
behavior. Or like I'm a very extroverted person and I love going out to places, but I also like being home. So it's like I had to compensate. Like while there's not really many things I did have to compensate with my husband, like there's things in my life that I prioritize, and it's understanding like okay, does the good outweigh the bad more? And if it does it feel good still to you? And it might be even. And if that's where people like have hard times making decisions.
yeah,
But yeah, like not making a list and be like, well, Audrey and Demiree said that they have to have all 20 of these things that I wrote down. And but
yeah,
it's looking at it like, okay, I don't want someone who smokes. I don't want someone who does this, this, and this, but they have all the other things. So am I willing to overlook smoking and maybe we can work on that? Yeah. But instead of someone being like, no, they smoke, I can't do it. Sorry. And
yeah,
some people might be like that. That might be a
yeah.
huge thing for them. But
And
it's
then something else might be where you're a little like, okay, fine, like that.
yeah,
I
it's
can do
understanding anything in your life, your job. Like, okay,
that.
I'm making really good money, but my boss treats me like absolute garbage,
Mhm.
and I hate the employees I work with, and I hate like
Yeah.
just because you're making tons of money doesn't mean like because guess what's going to happen? Your mental wealth is depleting, and it's just like that. So I could go on and on about that, but it's understanding like yes, we have lists and qualities that we want in everything of our life, but understanding which ones are enough and which ones like you're willing to not overlook, but like
Yeah, like
negotiate.
what's gonna make us feel good at the end of the day, right? It's like for me, the little things that I'm doing during my day, that when I put my head on the pillow at night, that I'm like, "Ah, I had like a really good day and I feel really good about myself." It's
Mhm.
like just bringing more of that into our lives. And just like you said, call a friend, go get the martini, go do something that feels good, drop out of medical school if that's what's going to make you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like do the thing, like live your life. Like that's,
Yeah.
I just,
Cancel the plans is a
mm,
big like
yeah,
I have girlfriends like that are like, well, I don't want to do all the things. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, then don't do all the things. Like we went out to dinner with our friends the other night. We went to dinner. We were to dinner for like 2.5 hours, and then we had intentions of going bowling after, where you throw a football at like bowling pins.
Oh,
And
cool.
we go to the place, and we walk in, and they're full, and we're like, okay, fine, we'll pivot to something else. And they both looked at us. They have a newborn son. They both looked at us. They're like, would we be so lame if we just wanted to go home? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I respect the hell out of that because it is so uncomfortable calling somebody that's probably really excited about something and being like, I'm really sorry, but I just can't because I can't count how many times I've signed up for something or I'm
Yeah.
like, let's do the girls' night. Yeah. And then the night comes and I'm in my sweatpants and I'm like, I pray to God someone's sick.
Yeah.
I've been there so many times. So it's like normalize canceling the plans, like not
Yes.
doing the things, but maybe not doing the things. Like
Yes.
that's also romanticizing your life of
Yes.
doing the things.
Totally. God, I love this so much. Okay, we need to know, like, how do we get in your world? How do we get to your event? Like, it is just
Yeah.
amazing. Like, tell us
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah, so the best way and easiest way I tell people is just looking up on my Instagram, which is my name, Demiree Suann, and it should pop up. And on there's Empower's page. If not, you can go to demireesuann.com, and everything with Empower, my podcast, everything like that is all on my website as well. So that's the easiest because I could sit here and be like, follow Demiree, follow Empower, go to Empower's website, go to my website. My podcast is this. One stop shop is demireesuann.com, and it's got everything you need on there to find me personally for coaching, our online community that Audrey's a part of, our event in April in Michigan, and all of the things.
I love it so much. Oh, so good. Okay, and I just want to ask you the last question I always ask. If you could choose just one like self-love or self-care tip, maybe it's something you've already said, but what would you tell somebody to do, for themselves today?
That's a good one. I would say self love is to find one little thing that makes you happy, just to like brighten your day, just that little much. So, like for me, if I'm like, I feel like I'm in a slump, like I'm not feeling the best mood. My husband's probably gonna laugh at this because I get like, as he gets a fudge coat, like those things make him happy, right? Like I love leaving the house to go get like a quick coffee, even though I've already had three. It makes me happy. All right, give me the caffeine. So a self love thing doesn't necessarily need to be like, I need to stop everything I'm doing and go to a spa, or I need to, watch this. It is just something small, as simple as like, okay, well, doing the laundry make me feel better about myself. I know it's a chore, but I know I feel internally so much better. So a
Yeah.
self care doesn't necessarily need to be this huge production of something, or I need to text the girls to get them together. Like
Yeah.
literally something right now. I literally the other day I was like, I want flowers.
Oh,
So I
yes.
went and got flowers. I was like, my husband buys me flowers, but I'm like, I want to buy my own flowers. I
Yeah.
want flowers right here. So when I'm looking, I can see them. And just something as simple as that of like, and actually just be like, I actually don't have anything to do for the next half an hour. I can go for a walk for
Yeah.
20 minutes, 10 minutes. I can go outside and watch my puppy play and record it. And I don't know, just something that will bring you joy for even
Mhm.
5 minutes.
So-
If you're at work, maybe go into the bathroom and listen to a podcast of somebody you actually like, or like go scroll on TikTok. I don't know. But
Yeah.
whatever makes you feel good and just like a break for a second and reminds you, like, okay, this is
Yeah.
actually up to me to make this a good day.
Yeah.
That's like my biggest thing.
So good. Well, thank you so much for being here. I love
Thank you
this.
for having me. I want to talk forever.
I know, right?